So let's see how visitor pattern works. So in this example I am using Visual Studio 2010. So let's create visitor and element classes. So here it is. Now let's create an abstract element class. So in the element class we have one accept method which is abstract, and in the visitor class we have one abstract method which is of return type string visit. So here it is. So we are ready with abstract visitor and abstract element. So now let's create a concrete visitor class. So in this example we are creating HTML, XML, CSV visitors to change the representation of our element. So let's create HTML visitor first. Visitor. So we have to override the visit method. Here it is. So I am going to use a little piece of reflection to enumerate over the properties of element and then print them one by one in an HTML format. So here it is. We are ready with HTML visitor. So now let's create an element, concrete element now. Let's say in this case is a person. So we have to override the accept method of element. We should say visitor dot visit this. That's it. So we are ready with concrete visitor and concrete element. Now let's define two properties of person class. So here it is. Now see. Now let's create the main code. We should say person.accept HTML visitor. Now let's run it. So it gives me an output of HTML format of person entity. So let's see how it works. It calls the accept method of person where we passed HTML visitor. So the visitor is HTML visitor. It calls the visit method of the visitor. Here it goes in the visit method of HTML visitor, and it goes property by property, enumerate it and convert it into an HTML like this. So now let's change it, modify it a little bit. I don't want to pollute my element with the properties, so I separate it into a different entity. So I say it is an intermediate element and I remove it. And now I define a new class with the same name person. And I kept those properties in a separate entity like this. Now let's see if it runs. So I should derive it from intermediate element. So it works. Now let's enhance it. So in this example there was only a single object, but the purpose of visitor is to visit the collection of objects. So let's create an collection. Here we have to enumerate over each element of the collection. Which in this case is the elements list. So each element has to accept visitor. So let's modify the main program. Now we will add the person in an object collection, and instead of doing that, attach, not accept. And now the collection should accept the visitor we have created above, this HTML visitor, and let's see how it works. Again the same output. We'll see how it works. So it will create a list of elements. After this, attach of collection is called, so it will attach the person, which in this case is a default person, and again accept method would be called when it goes for each element in the list of elements. In this case is a person. It says element.accept visitor, which is an HTML visitor, and the whole process goes like the same way. Like this. So let's say we want to add another item in the collection. We'll say this is person 1, this is person 2, let's say another person, We'll add another person in the collection. So it will give me the HTML output of both persons. Now the purpose of visitor was to change the representation of an element class, which we done it using HTML visitor. Let's say we'll create another visitor called CSV visitor. Here the purpose is to convert it into an CSV format. So we created a new visitor, CSV visitor, to change the representation of the same person, same object collection, you can say. Create a new CSV visitor like this. Like this, and we pass it to the object collection here instead of HTML visitor, and let's see. Now the output is in a CSV format.